Alright, so in the past we talked about the cause and effects of accelerated content. Now when we consider up to Downtime release, since we have a date for that, we are looking at a total of 10 months and some change, as if time just wiped off the map. We are now to the point where we are only one major content release behind KR. Now in the past, Rox and Shield Maiden have both said that we're not going to catch up to KR. So if that is still true, the certain goal is to keep us either a certain amount behind, like say by 3 or 4 months, or it's going to be one major content release behind. So for example, these two posts from Shield Maiden, literally within a day of one another. One says we'll never be releasing content at the same time. The other says we'll never catch up to KR. The way it's wording can kind of be taken a little bit differently, which is why it's a mystery which route they're going. But regardless, this means that either way, we will soon be at that point where they want the Western client and player base to be at, which means there are no longer months to cut. That means that the 7-month gap that KR got means that we are going to have a 7-month gap. It's no longer going to be they got a 7-month gap between content and then we got 3 months. And that's really one of the main topics I want to cover. By getting to the point that AGS and Smilegate want us to be, we are now going to have more downtime. And I think that's actually a net positive for the game and the community. Additionally, I'm going to cover some other topics that are kind of time related as well. So when I want to look at popular topics of what people are talking about, what's going on in the community, I generally look at Reddit first. Out of all places available, I think Reddit has the least amount of chance of being an echo chamber. And when you go there and you look at popular threads, popular subjects, whatever, two major ones that I've seen were people talking about how this game is not built for casuals and how unfriendly the game is for new players. Between these two, there is over 600 comments on how this game's progression, the time, and all it takes is just not that great for them, and they're venting. But the thing is, they're still playing the games because they love the game. They just really want to be heard about this kind of stuff. And the truth is, this topic pops up so often. Like this thread here, they just come and go like every couple months. Now, obviously, some of these things are a little bit over exaggerated, but we're going to leave the whole casual talk pretty much right here because I tend to talk about that more so in a grand scheme on a different video because I think it deserves its own video as opposed to just being a sub point. But the point is, a lot of the community, a lot of the people in this game, they talk about how they just don't feel like they have enough time to either play the game, to catch up, or to keep up. All of this just boils down to time, which really brings us back to the 10 months that we have lost in just pure grind time. 10 months of weekly and daily content that we do not get between all this content. And initially we thought that was going to be all right because we had all these events with the materials and stuff like that. But now as we've experienced these events, these rewards, they don't really give us much. So with 10 months lost and not much compensation, this is why people say that this game feels like a job, a second job, or they could just, swipe. And now while I do admit in my monetization video, the chapter title of Your Wallet or Your Life is probably a bit much and the closest thing I had to clickbait on my channel, that is genuinely how a lot of people who played the game and a lot of people who had quit the game felt about it. The person who got me into this damn game, he quit because he felt like he didn't have time to play any other games. It was either play these other 5 new games that came out or just keep on playing Lost Ark. And really when people try to fight this kind of topic, they completely miss the point. This topic has never really been about can people hit these breakpoints? It's always really been about how much time of your day every day are you going to have to put in to actually get to that point. So my personal feeling and hope is once we get to this point that we are caught up to the point they want to be, so we don't have lost months of time that people can just grind and we just have longer gaps between big content releases, that this type of topic, this kind of mindset might just die down a little bit at least. Like think about this gap that we're going to have for Downtime. Think if we had the additional 3 months that KR had. Think of what you're getting every week right now and then expand that to 3 months worth. That is a lot of materials and a lot of gold that we just won't have. With that additional 3 months, I think people would be less worried about trying to hit it for Downtime. A lot of people just feel like they can't take a break, they can't do things rested. But I think if we had the additional time, they would be like they can maybe take a little time off, they can do things rested more often, maybe even playing less characters off your roster. I think having that time, having that room to breathe would be very good for the game and community as a whole. I think it would really tone down the amount of people talking about how it's a second job, too much grinding, too much time taken and all that kind of stuff. But of course, like most things, it's a give and take scenario where there would be some negative side effects to it. And one we'll probably see once we get to that point of being caught up to where AGS wants us to be. And that is that once we have all the content that we're supposed to have and things aren't accelerated, people are going to feel like they don't have as much to do. It's not as exciting. They're just waiting for the new and next content. Because not everybody is in the same situation. Not everybody feels like they need to catch up. A lot of people are already ready to do content. There are people who are ready to do Downtime hard right now. Pleasing the entire community of a game and an MMO is pretty much impossible. However, it is an absolutely valid argument when these people say that, hey, there's not much for me to do. I want something to do. I need content. And the thing is, we've already seen this happen in Lost Ark. That's the KR community. They don't lose time because they're the main region. All that extra time means all the materials over there are extremely cheap, making it that much more cost efficient to actually boost your item level in KR versus the West. Because they had those 10 months of time to do unas, to do daily tasks, to do weekly tasks, to whatever it is, to get all these materials bound to them on their own that they don't need to buy it. And obviously, you know, some people swipe too. But this resulted in the situation where they said, hey, we need vertical content. We need endgame content. Otherwise, we're going to quit because we have nothing to do in the game, which is why we had Vertical God. But I think overall, it is better to have people who are worried about the endgame itself as opposed to getting to it. It is going to be quite a bit different for the Western audience because this is going to be the first time that we've had larger gaps between content. And while I do think there are valid concerns that people might get too bored and quit the game because there's just not any new content, I also recognize that how hardcore and degenerate this community is, because we're basically only veterans left. If you've made it this far, there's probably a small chance of losing somebody over a little extra time between content. So like even the people who do not agree with this kind of stuff, they're not going to quit over it. Now, a lot of this topic has been me talking about the 10 months that we lost. So don't get it twisted. I do think that it was the right choice to accelerate content because it's in a pretty similar vein of people who want to keep up with their item level, their progression, their characters to the community. People in the West, they want to keep their client up to date to be as close as possible to KR, especially since we can see all these classes, all these raids that we're getting or they're getting in KR that we're missing out on. It is absolutely reasonable to see these classes and just want them. So I think the overall issue is just we didn't get enough compensation. Yes, honing nerf and events, they help, but they just weren't enough. Part of me has hope that better late than never they would notice this and kind of do a change up with the event materials and hopefully boost that up, but that hasn't happened so far. Still waiting for that event redemption arc. Now, when it comes to talking about progression, a lot of people talk about keeping up. And what I really want to mention is really just how loosely people use it. Is it to keep up with your friends? Keep up with raid content releases? May it be normal or hard? Keep up with swipers? Keep up with people who arm T? Keep up with busters? Keep up with scumbag chaos botters? Which, hey, on Reddit, there is a thread about people doing chaos botting. Take a look at that. I've heard people have been doing this pretty much since launch, so it's not like it's anything new. But I do think this kind of topic needs to be talked about more and hopefully push AGS to actually punish people who do a lot of these cheating exploits, RMT, and all this other kind of stuff. But really what I'm getting at here is Lost Ark can be as much of an infinite grind as you want it to be, or it can be as relaxed as you want it to be. It is ultimately up to you to set your goals and limits to what you're able to put into the game to get to your goal. As memey as this is going to sound, it is not up to Lost Ark to respect your time. It is up to you to respect your time. You have to assess how much time you can put into the game, how much money you can put into the game, and where you want to get to. I consider my goals pretty realistic. I know I can't keep up with somebody like Stoops or Honed. I have 0 1620s and I know I'll get there eventually and I'm not too rushed for it. And this is nothing against people who buy gold legitimately. If they can afford to do that, good for them. If that bothers you and you're playing a Korean pay-to-win game, you're fucked. That's it. So it's really up to you, the players, to understand what is reasonable for you to get and what for you to achieve. Now, a side note is that even if you do set realistic goals, with major progression systems being RNG based, sometimes you just will get fisted with bad RNG. One of my boys hit 1615 in bound materials. I hit 1605. Like, it sucks. Yeah, that bad RNG costed me a lot of time, but it is what it is. Now, I want to say that even though I mentioned that it's up to you to respect your own time, I am not deflecting that a lot of games, and especially a lot of MMOs, are designed to monopolize your time. For a game to actually respect your time, you would need an account-wide fatigue/SAMA system that, unlike most mobile games, you cannot refill with pay-to-win. Because even in Lost Ark, even though you have a limited amount of daily and weekly content, you can still do it alts. And you could just say, well, just make multiple accounts, but most people aren't going to do that. And as history has shown, communities generally hate fatigue systems, which is why we don't see it that much anymore. At the end of the day, I think you have to be pretty brain cell deficient to not understand the value of 10 months. Especially when you consider in the West that this game is about to hit its 2-year anniversary, which means 10 months is a lot of time. 10 months of chaos, 10 months of guardian raids, 10 months of unas, 10 months of raid gold, 10 months of farming just wiped off the calendar. Progression should not be free, but it also shouldn't be all consuming in your time as well. And even if you don't think that, because of places like Discord and Reddit, you can see that there are a lot of people who do think like that. And I think here in the West, once we finally do have more downtime, I think this topic will be less and less of a thing that we see. Well, when it comes to time alone, when this game is still not being as casual friendly or for new players, the overall catching up system of the actual game, yeah, people are still going to complain about that. But they have good reason. But overall, I think people will start to feel less rushed. And I think that's just good for the game, good for the community. Even if we do have people complaining that, hey, we just don't have enough content to do, there's nothing to do in the game, I think even those people will start to appreciate that they can do things a little bit more relaxed. Alright, so this part might seem a little off because I'm recording it at a different time. As I'm editing here, Dubla actually put out a new video today. A new friend of mine, a friend of the channel, but anyways, he did something that I'm too lazy to do, which is chart out material gains. The video will be in the description, but really that video just kind of shows like how much materials you're getting for the time. That kind of helps shows how much materials we're losing for the time we're losing. Just thought I'd throw this in the video real quick. I'm personally pretty close to my account goals. I've committed to the stupid idea of pushing my gold 6 to 1610 to make Ivory Tower a little bit more relaxed because I have a little bit of item level buffer. And also the next tier of Chaos and Guardians and their Fate Embers. Yeah, I'll gamble a little bit on that. But yeah, they're getting there. And my mate, my scouter, he's already 1610. But I will eventually get him to 1620. And part of the reason is just because I don't want to feel like too much of a dead weight to my party. 4 people in my static have made to 1620 with comparatively relative ease. And I willingly play Evo Scouter, so I'm not somebody who fiends over MVP. But at the same time, I'm going to feel bad doing the same raids with these people, having like no set purple elixir scouter, doing literal Z compared to my boys with their 40 set legendary elixirs. But overall, since I've gotten closer to my goal and I see it a little bit more achievable than before, I'm doing more Guardians Rested now, and I'm even thinking about playing some other games because I'm able to play this game a little bit less. Pal World just came out, and I've never really played these crafty types of games, but my friends absolutely love it, so I'm actually going to give that a try. And additionally, this week, I'm going to have Tekken 8 and Under Night 2 to play, so like I just have to make time for these other games that I want to play. And hopefully I can start spending some more time drawing again because Lost Ark time consumption has done that little to no favors. I think it's going to be really good for me to play other games, to take a little less time in the game. And I think that type of freedom would be good for everybody, to have a little bit of downtime, to be able to play other games, do other things, and not worry about what you're not doing in Lost Ark right now. And I think people will just enjoy Lost Ark more when they don't have to play it as much, as weird as that may sound. But then you think about it and how people don't really log on to do Chaos Dungeon, to do Una, to do Guardian Raids. They're not excited to do it, but they feel like they have to do it. But if people feel like they don't have to do it as much, or they can do it rested, that is just overall going to be better for them. I genuinely do enjoy this game. I love this game. And I think pretty much everybody who does these threads, these comments, they do too. Because the game matters or has so much effect on them that they feel like they had to go out of their way to talk about this kind of stuff. Yes, sure, there are exceptions where there's going to be somebody who's like just hate posting because they quit the game and they just don't want other people to enjoy it too, but they eventually get bored and fuck off. So, TLDR. As Lost Ark players, we are degenerate hardcore grinders who could benefit from a little time off to take the scenic route instead of worrying about the next big content launch. Which is why once we catch up to content to where they want us to be, I think it'll be better off for the game and the community here in the West, and with that downtime will come a more relaxed mindset from the average player. Which again is what I think the community would benefit from.